Review. Today, we are plunging into a concept that's pretty challenging, but it is so relevant to, every screen you look at, every speaker you listen to. We're talking about Theodor Adorno's critique of the culture industry.
Yeah. And our mission here is to take this really dense, often intimidating idea of his and, turn it into like a shortcut for you. Because his main claim is that modern culture, it's not real art. It's not reflection.
It's an industry.
It's a full-blown industry, a machine. And its main purpose isn't just making stuff. It's about social control. So if you've ever felt that media seems, weirdly repetitive or just not very challenging, this is scrutinizing that explains why.
And the sources we're looking at, they're just hammers on this point.
Yeah.
This whole idea of the culture industry, it really upends the whole debate about what modernity is even supposed to be.
It's all about totality. Adorno says the industry presses the same stamp on everything. Films, radio, magazines, they're all cut from the same cloth. But here's the real kicker. The big idea? This system organizes your free time using the exact same logic, the same principles of efficiency that govern your actual job.
Hold on, let me get this straight. You're saying my time off, my leisure, is basically just an extension of my workday, that it's mentally prepping me to go back to the office?
Precisely. That's what Adorno calls the negative integration of society. You think you're getting away from it all, but you're actually just being managed, consuming things that make sure you stay passively adjusted to the very system you wanted to break from.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This factory of conformity, if it's not producing art, what is the culture industry actually trying to do?
It's aiming for compliance. For Adorno, it's not really about lying to you in the old sense of ideology. It's more about silencing resistance.
How does it do that?
By changing the very definition of pleasure. When you're consuming this stuff, pleasure literally means not to think about anything. It offers you this temporary escape, a freedom from thought and negation.
So the problem isn't that the entertainment is bad necessarily, but that its job is to stop you from thinking critically about your own life.
It's designed to do that. And this connects directly to a huge philosophical point he makes about reason itself. He calls it instrumental rationality. The idea was, reason was this great Enlightenment tool for achieving freedom, for happiness, but it became obsessed with efficiency, with the how to build the machine, how to control things. And it totally forgot why we wanted the machine in the first place.
And the culture industry is that machine.
It's the ultimate expression of that cold, efficient machine. It takes that logic of domination and turns it against the very goals of the Enlightenment by just shutting down independent thought.
Which brings us to that classic split, right? High art versus low art. Is that split a failure of art or a failure of society?
For him, the split is the truth. The fact that culture is fractured like this reveals the fracture in society. He has this amazing line. Light art has been the shadow of autonomous art. It is the social bad conscience of serious art. The industry needs this division. The difficult, challenging stuff that gets pushed into a corner. It becomes abstract. Meanwhile, light art gives everyone the comforting illusion they need to stay adjusted. It shuts down any possibility of an alternative.
Okay, let's get more concrete then. Let's talk about a specific commodity, music. If everything is standardized, what does Adorno think happened to musical taste?
He'd say the whole concept of taste is basically obsolete. When music is mass-produced, liking a song is almost the same as just recognizing it.
Just knowing you've heard it before.
Yeah, familiarity becomes the stand-in for quality. And since everything follows these predictable patterns, there's no real choice anyway.
This is where his idea of musical fetishism comes in, and it's fascinating. How does our appreciation get separated from the music itself?
The consumer stops appreciating the music, the notes, the feeling. Instead, they're basically worshiping the money that was paid for it, the exchange value. It's the status of the commodity that becomes the object of fascination.
You see the term reified used here. What does that mean? Are people literally worshiping the wood of a violin?
Yes. In a way, reification is just a fancy word for treating an abstract thing like status or money as if it's a real physical object. And you see this fetishism everywhere, even in classical music. Think about how the classical repertoire gets shrunk down to only the pieces chosen for their effectiveness, just like a pop song.
Or the obsession with a specific instrument.
Exactly. The cult of the Stradivarius. People go nuts over the name, over the reified object, without actually listening to how well it's being played. It's about the prestige, not the art.
So wait, if I put on some super predictable pop playlist on Spotify while I'm working, Adorno would call that a psychological regression? That seems a little extreme.
Oh, he absolutely would. He calls it regressive listening. He says we're not really capable of concentrated listening anymore. We just surrender that whatever washes over us, the state of deconcentration.
And we just pick out little bits and pieces.
Just isolated things, right? A catchy hook, a cool drum sound, a guitar riff. We hear music as pure background. And for him, that's a profound regression because it's a rejection of any music that might be different, that might be oppositional music that actually demands you pay attention.
So if the music is pre-packaged like that, how does that same logic pre-wire our brains for TV and movies? Let's talk about the media schema.
The whole point of the schema is to make culture and real life feel like the same thing. He calls it a false aestheticization of the empirical world. The media promises to change your life, but it just delivers an illusion. It avoids any real conflict. Instead, you get these predictable little shocks, some minor drama, but it always ends up in the same safe, happy ending that reinforces the status quo.
And the most powerful tool for this is television's multi-layered structure, the idea that the hidden message is the real point, and it just bypasses our conscious brain.
That is the absolute aha moment. It's so true today. The layering is completely intentional. Look at his example of the comedy about an underpaid school teacher.
Right
On the surface, it's funny. She's witty, she hustles for free meals, but the hidden message is you should just adjust terrible economic conditions. Don't demand change, just be charming and cope.
Or his other example, the nice girl stereotype.
Yes, the overt message is a pretty girl can do no wrong. So even when she's revealed to be, say, a crook, her punishment is minimal. She still gets the guy. Why? Because the audience identifies with her. But the hidden message just reinforces this idea that charm and fitting the stereotype are more important than actual ethics.
He even saw this in astrology columns, which seems random, but it fits the pattern perfectly.
Astrology is his perfect example of secondary superstition. It works because it mixes something that sounds rational, like avoid family arguments, with total irrationality. The advice comes from the stars.
So you get to obey without feeling like a sucker.
Exactly. It lets people believe in this external force without having to give up their claim to being rational. It makes the irrational seem remote and impersonal, which is exactly how people already experienced the opaque mechanical systems controlling their everyday lives.
And this critique goes way beyond just watching TV. It bleeds into our own lives. If the culture industry controls all that, what happens to our free time?
Adorno is. He's incredibly blunt about this. Free time isn't free. It's enslaved to its opposite work. Even when we're trying to escape our jobs, our will is being shaped by the same forces. This is the whole paradox of the hobby.
Organized freedom becomes mandatory.
It's compulsory. If you don't have a hobby, you're an eccentric. You're weird.
I am feeling a little attacked right now thinking about all those complicated DIY projects I was so proud of assembling.
But that's exactly what he'd call pseudo-activity. These fake illusory activities that are just substitutes for real satisfaction, but we rationalize them as being useful. Do it yourself. This is prime example.
Doing work someone else could do better.
And for free. It's misguided spontaneity. It lets people who aren't free, feel like they're still in charge of something when they're really just performing a kind of outsourced labor for a corporation.
And sport fits right in there too.
Oh, absolutely. Sport is sold as this pure escape from practical life, but it becomes a ritual where we celebrate our own subjection. It's a parody of freedom. It trains people into the required behaviors, the functionalization of the body. You do to yourself what society demands of you, and you call it a victory,
Spectator just becomes a frenzied worshiper.
right? A howling devotee, as he put it. True spontaneity gets replaced by this sort of crude curiosity.
It's incredible how he connects this whole cultural critique directly to the political machinery of fascism.
And what's so fascinating is his insight that fascist propaganda has to be psychological because its goals are totally irrational. They go against the masses' own self-interest. So it has to mobilize the irrational parts of us. And it does that through the image of the leader.
The primal father figure, right?
Drawing on Freud, Adorno says the leader's image just sucks up all the followers' narcissistic frustration. The leader becomes this substitute for the ego ideal that can never achieve themselves.
So the leader is packaged as both as untouchable God and also, just one of us. And he absorbs all the frustration people are carrying around.
Precisely the great little man. But Adorno adds this brilliant nuance. He says the crowds don't completely believe it. They perform their enthusiasm. They're acting it out, trying to balance their primitive urges with the fact that they're also enlightened beings who can't fully go back. They know deep down the spell is sort of fictitious.
This has been a heavy, deep dive. The takeaway seems to be that the total effect of the culture industry is anti-enlightenment. It stops us from developing into the kind of autonomous, independent people a democracy needs.
The big insight is so clear. The customer is not king, not at all. The consumer is just an appendage of the machinery, an object to be calculated. The system proves its power by stamping its mark on absolutely everything that passes through it.
So if the system is that complete, if it's so deep in our consciousness, in our leisure time, where's the escape hatch? Is there one?
Well, Adorno and his collaborator Horkheimer warned that Enlightenment itself can become mass deception, a tool for fettering consciousness. But, and this is the critical opportunity, the system can never be perfectly integrated, not even in consciousness. There's always this little imperfection, the small part of the inner self that resists total control. And that's where the potential for critical independence, what he calls the chance of maturity, still exists. You have to identify the irrationality of the very adjustment that the culture industry demands from you all day, every day.
So the final thought for you to consider is this. If the system can't totally absorb our consciousness, what is the one thing you consume? The one piece of media you engage with that still requires real effort, that genuinely refuses to just be background noise? Look for what still refuses to be just a comforting shadow.